Okay. Welcome back to the Anime Crunch Show, everybody. A talk show and podcast dedicated to discussing, analyzing, reviewing, and then giving our opinion on anime voted upon by you, the viewer. You can vote on those in our Discord. You can find that in our About section below. But this show is hosted by myself, Cause Nova, fellow streamer and good friend Fallen Neophyte. We have a special guest here today, Chusky, who is a good friend and fellow streamer. Hangs out with Fallen a lot. They play a bunch of Tarky together. And Chusky is a really cool dude, knows a bunch about anime, so we're really stoked to have him here today. But without further ado, we're going to be discussing Tokyo Ghoul Season 1. I'm going to go on mute in Discord and let's say what up to the bros.
Pleasure of having you on during our anime next FPS stream, and you had a fan. You did so well. We had such great conversations. I had to bring you in to do one of these anime crunch segments, and I'm really happy you accepted to do it, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, Chusky. Really, truly, man.
Absolutely. We share a love of anime, so there's not a better spot to be when talking about it.
Absolutely,
yeah,
right. Trying to a community, a safe place for us to discuss anime and manga.
Exactly. So just a quick little shout out, chat, and to Nova's chat. If you guys don't know who Chusky is, man's is bonkers at Escape from Tarkov. He is a complete and utter savage. His movement is incredible. He has a stash that kills, and he absolutely slays, guys. Please check him out for some great FPS shooting content. And if you want to do a little chit chat about some animes, he's the guy for you too. He'll hit you with some trivia as well when you redeem those points.
Hell yeah, I'm certainly checking out his content. I'm playing Tarkov for the very first time tomorrow for Jim Jam's birthday, so I'm definitely gonna be checking out some of Chusky's content, see if there's some tips and tricks I can learn out of that.
That's exciting times, man. First day into Tarkov. No better time than the start of a wife.
Yeah, dude, he's been begging me, and homie was like, "Yo, it's his birthday. You should really get it." And I was like, "All right, man. All right, here we go." And I've watched a lot of it. Being a fan of Fallen's content, I've watched a lot of Tarkov content. But like, here we go. First day tomorrow.
Dude, it's well. So just before we get into it, Chusky, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give Nova?
Please, yes,
time ever playing Tarkov.
Ooh, if there's one, there's two, and if there's two, there's three.
Big facts.
Make sure you're looking at all your enemies. Like, just because you think you got the team down doesn't mean the team's down. You got one dude in that corner bush looking for that headshot.
And that's what I've heard. It's a mill sim, so playing it safe. Is that you're telling me play it safe? Don't assume anything in Tarkov.
Yeah.
Check your corners.
Check your corners.
Moving through. Yeah. Make sure that you're making sure that the area is secured before you move in and take any loot. Like,
awesome.
I've seen too many times someone jump on a body and immediately they get headshot and they're like, "What? I killed two of them. There's another?" And it's like, yeah.
That happens literally all the time. I put out videos of that. I think about 3 or 4 videos where I just say, "Hey guys, please check your corners before you loot bodies." Where I just mag dump some kid who just dives on a body because he thinks he clears the area. And it's like that's one of the first things you gotta learn. Second thing is don't. Unless you are really good at aiming for the head, don't just completely W key. Actually strategize about what you're gonna do. Think about it, but don't play like Call of Duty because you don't have armor plates. If you get shot in the arm, you're losing that arm. That arm's not going to be
I'm gonna take a lot of deaths. I'm not used to the gunplay, not used to the movement. I'm gonna take a lot of deaths. I assume in the first few hours.
Yeah, find your gun that you enjoy, man, and just find your style that you enjoy. As
honestly,
much as some people go against Shift W works for me. It works for me a lot of the times, but I do.
Yeah.
Oh, and it'll be my first FPS on mouse and keyboard actually. Since yeah.
Oh. Yo, he's diving deep.
Yo, full send, right? It's gonna be some hilarious content.
That is Shift dubbing if I've ever heard it. First fucking FPS on a mouse and keyboard, Tarkov. All right.
Yeah. It's gonna be very impressive. I'm excited to watch that unfold, man. It's gonna be really incredible. But once again, everybody, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Anime Crunch, and we're doing a deep dive analysis on one of my personal favorite animes, Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, dude. This is the second time around I've watched it because I watched it just to watch it about 2 years ago. It really hooked me this time. I'm super excited to talk. Like, the characters got me this time. I don't know if it was my maturity level at the time or what, but it got me this time.
I feel like just to start, it's like a perfect balance between like a horror and shonen. Kind of mixed together, because it has shonen aspects to it, but it also has those horror moments where it's like very gory and very frightful, right? But then you have those innocent moments, and I love we'll talk about later, but how they kind of like kind of show human emotion and like actually personify existential crisis during the entire experience of
Anxiety
the main
attacks and
character.
things. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no
They do
doubt.
an incredible job
A
with
lot of
that.
conflicts too, internal conflicts as well that are fought nonstop, and it's like, there's a breaking point for sure, and the show does a really good job of showing what that breaking point is.
That's
Most
yeah, it's a
definitely.
very good way of putting it. Yeah, a point. Yeah, a breaking point. Yeah, whether that be mental or physical or.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
so
very true.
let's go ahead and play the trailer for everybody,
Yeah.
so everyone can see what we are going to be discussing. If you guys haven't seen Tokyo Ghoul, it has been a handful of years since it was created. This was created back in the early 2000s, the manga at least.
Yeah.
And it's been in the making for a very long time. And when the animation first came out, I was beyond excited, and it got a lot of waves when it first came out. It was very, very well animated.
What is up, Raining Merc, man? Good to have you here. Thanks for stopping by. Have you seen the series?
Guys, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a countdown in
Absolutely.
3, 2, 1, go.
This is why we have to treat them like.
Oh God, I love anime that takes place in the city.
You get to see some really cool cityscapes, is what I find.
Oh yeah, then that's yeah. The aesthetic can really really get you with the city.
Rize is such a crazy character. Mato as well.
Oh my God, just one of those you can sense how OP they are when they speak. Like they don't even have to do anything. You're like, okay, this person can clearly kill everyone in the room.
Oh man, the Kaganes are just so. Oof.
Dude, there's some incredible Kagane. I love the diversity of the Kaganes here in the show as well.
Personality types, yeah. It's really badass.
And even the way this trailer is cut, like this show definitely does get gory if you guys have seen it, or if you haven't, heads up, it gets gory, but it's not done in a not like it's always tasteful, I find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always in an artistic fashion.
Yeah. It's weird to say that, but
artistic fashion.
yeah.
Yeah, no. So I have to give chat a useless fact. I'm going to keep it anime themed though.
Oh, absolutely.
If you guys didn't know this, the creator of Sailor Moon is also married to the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho. If you look at their bedrooms, the creator of Sailor Moon, her actual work.
Oh, I know, Jay. We actually have it muted just to reduce on the copyright catches. So we mute the trailer. We just wanted to show off kind of the art style since we're going to be talking about it anyway. And it's super helpful to have seen the series before the show, just like the Noodles and Beer show. But yeah, that's what I was doing.
We dive in to the first main character, Mr. Ken Kaneki.
Ken Kaneki, what a person.
What a name. KK, let's do it.
And Ken is a super popular name, especially in Japan. Like Ken is a super popular name.
So just to give you guys some background, background that's not shown in the actual anime itself. When Ken was a young child, well, either you guys want to refer to him as Ken or Kaneki?
That's up to you. I'll probably go back and
Kaneki.
forth. Kaneki
Yeah,
mostly,
Kaneki.
yeah.
When Kaneki was very, very young, his father died around, I would say, when he was 3 or 4 years old. When he died, the only way he was able to connect with his father was his father's big book collection. That's where his love for books came from. So whenever he would read these books, he would then kind of feel like he's having a conversation or a relationship with his dead father. His mother, on the flip side, was always working very, very hard because the father was dead, trying to put food on the table. Now, her sister would always come by and take money from her because she was basically a freeloading, a very rude freeloading sister, right? And took advantage of her older sister. so would always come in and take money away from her. Now, what they don't show in the anime is that Kaneki's mother actually got really angry when these type of situations would happen, and she would take her anger out on Kaneki. She was actually abusive, and she used to beat him and like completely just beat the crap out of him. But he would
Yeah.
repress these feelings because he wanted to love her, because that was the only person that he had in his life. He was very alone, so he repressed all those feelings and just only had adoration and love for her going into it, as she would make burgers for him and whatnot and take care of him until her untimely death. And then that led to him being completely alone. And then he met his best friend Hide.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
that also starts to really help define sort of his like initial um I'm not submissive nature, if you will, like
Yes,
his submissive,
100%.
like you know what I mean. It really starts to define his psyche and the way he reacts to other people and like outward influences and socially. And yeah, that leads us into meeting Hide,
Yeah.
like why he acts the way he acts with Hide, and why like Hide is like really one of his only homies that he's kicking it with, you know.
Well, that was his only real friend, right? Because
Right,
Kaneki was the like introvert to the nth extreme, right? Would read books, sit on his own, be completely alone. He never knew how to really socialize because he never was taught how to.
right.
And he was always kind of the outcast, and that was his situation when Hide came around, who was the complete opposite, who was very much so an extrovert, somebody who was very much so like outward driven, talking to everybody, friends with a lot of people. It was kind of the perfect yin and yang situation, if you know what I mean.
Yep, yep,
And
no
then that
doubt.
yin and yang situation expands farther into the
And I
anime
think
too.
it takes a sprinkle of kindness from Hide too, because he can see like as they talk about Hide's like really good at sensing people and emotion and stuff. So like he knows how to act with Kaneki and how to treat him and be his friend, if that makes sense. You know, to be the friend
Yeah,
to a complete introvert, because that's not easy. It's not easy to get those people to come out.
Well, the other thing that you can also say about, Kaneki is the fact of how easily he's able to almost sever connections. It's not very dominant consistently, but when he ignores Hide for quite some time as he's going through
yeah,
another tough moment in his life, right?
That's a very
So even
interesting
though
point.
that is his best friend and his, one person that he goes to, he has no issues. Well, he has some issues, but he's very easily able to just say, I'm not calling him back. I'm not sending him a text back. I'm just gonna ignore him. And you can tell Hide's getting angry and verbally expressing what's going on. But Kaneki, hey, I got my own stuff going on right now internally. At the end of the day, who do I have to look after? It comes back into himself. He has to look after himself at the end of the day, as
but
No
he's always
doubt.
done.
but there is a moment where he does actually kind of cut himself off from Hide because he wants to protect Hide too.
Right.
Because remember, there's a situation with Kishio that puts Hide's life at jeopardy, and Kaneki kind of realizes, all right, I need to kind of separate myself so that Hide, the person that I genuinely care about in my life, is safe. And it ends
Right.
up being almost like a forced severed tie because he wants to be with him, but he can't be around him because of his new life situation.
And I think there's
Completely understandable.
major connection lines drawn between Kaneki and Hide's relationship and Masaomi, and I can't think
Oh,
of his
and
and
Ryogami
Ryu and
Mikado.
Mikado, yeah, Mikado and
Yeah.
Masaomi, and then Hide and Kaneki kind of have like that very similar relationship where Masaomi and Hide were the the socialite in the structure. And then what reminded me of that is the way you said that he was able to just kind of cut Hide off, but then Fallen also added for a reason to protect Hide. This is the same kind of move we'd see Mikado make. Yeah.
And if you guys don't know these references, that's from Do Ra Ra Ra,
Oh,
guys.
I didn't say that.
Those.
My apologies. Yes, this is Durarara. We've covered it. The podcast is up. Go watch the video. It's old news.
But yeah, man. So that is really, honestly, the real first connection that Kaneki has, and it kind of, I feel like it symbolizes Kaneki's true connection to the human world. And this is further developed later in the season and in the manga as a whole. But Hide is kind of his anchor to what his humanity is, where he kind of came from, how he is connected to the human world in general. And without Hide, Kaneki would be once again isolated and separated, and he would be kind of be his own little island, whereas Hide is kind of his little sandbar that connects him to everything else. If that
Oh,
makes
well
sense.
said. Yeah, well said.
Definitely agree. It's almost him holding on to his only part of his human life left that he's been desperately grasping for, right?
Yeah. So
Mhm.
then, moving forward, if you guys don't know what happens, Hide and Kaneki end up going to a random little coffee shop.
Yep.
And that coffee
So
shop ends up
smooth the way
being,
they did that too. So
yeah,
smooth.
so smooth. They go to a little coffee shop called Anteiku, random little place. They hang out there. They're having a drink, and apparently Kaneki has a love interest. And
Yeah, he's
initially, initially Hide believes that it's the waitress Toka, which you'll meet her later on too. But it's
Oh.
actually this other one. It's Rize, a beautiful woman, has purple hair, stunning, and also has very similar taste in books as Kaneki.
And that was the hook, line, and sinker, right?
Yep,
He
it
thought she
really
was
was.
attractive, and then he's checking her out. He sees that she's reading a book by one of his favorite authors, which I do believe that is his favorite author because it was one of his
Yeah.
dad's books, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
he has every single book of hers. Like
right.
there's a moment later in the second season, like later in the manga, where he actually goes to a book signing, and he actually goes in, and she like the actual author applauds him for owning like all of her books and having such an avid love for
That's
her
so
work.
cool.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving forward, so then he meets Rize and he goes on a date with her, and everything seems great. They seem like everything's wonderful. I mean, it seems like a regular good old shonen. It's the introvert finally getting his chance to meet with a beautiful woman and be able to have a relationship and grow together,
Yeah, they
and
have a
everything
lovely
looks so.
conversation.
He has lovely conversations. I mean, he does make a notice, right? So during that date, she takes a bite of her sandwich, and she's like, "Oh, I need to go to the powder room." Really, really nice, calm, relaxed. Goes to the powder room. He's just like observes that she doesn't eat too much, and that was a nice little play of foreshadowing that Tokyo Ghoul likes to do very often.
Yeah.
So you'll notice those little things after you've watched it a few times, little bits of foreshadowing tossed in everywhere. So, anyways, um, Chusky, I'll let you explain what happens next.
So as they're going on a lovely date and everything, Kaneki, he goes ahead and says, I gotta be a gentleman, right? I gotta be a gentleman. I gotta walk you home. So this is where it kind of starts to get a little interesting and a little bit more into the side of, in my opinion, the shadowy characters of the ghouls, almost where how they do their business, how they go about eating their food and everything.
Mhm.
It's very low key, very casual. And so
It
they
is in their
she's taking
community. It is
Kaneki through
very
a dark it,
casual.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's very
Yeah.
casual. Like for an example, like they're walking through, and next thing you know, she starts to, I guess, get hungry almost in a sense because, like you said, she hadn't eaten or anything, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
she's looking at Kaneki, and then next thing you know, she just goes in, and Kaneki's sitting there thinking the state's going amazing. She's reaching in, like, is this gonna be it? Like, is this gonna be the kiss?
Do you
And
remember the
then,
one liner? The one liner she says. She goes.
oh,
She goes. Kaneki, I want you just as much as you want me. And then, boom! And then
Oh.
bites him right in the fucking throat, dude. Oh my
yeah,
god.
Mhm.
And if
yeah,
you
man.
notice, actually, while they're walking, Toka, the waitress, notices that he's walking with her and gives her like a side eye. And then she keeps walking because she knows what's up, but we don't know who Toka is yet at that point.
Mhm. Because initially, I mean, the very first scene of the very first episode, we get that clip of Homie and he's meeting with Rize, and we kind of get this like, okay, so there's a binge eater on the loose, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of
The,
our yeah, in the very first few moments. I mean, I missed it the first time, and then the second time I watched the series, I was paying obviously a lot more attention, and I was watching sub, so I was paying a lot more attention, and I noticed that, and I was like, oh, you actually get that, like the very first scene is those two talking
yeah.
at the top of that tower. Yeah, so it sets up kind of
That's
who Rize
That's
is.
Jason, right?
Yeah,
Jason and
Jason,
Rize,
that's his
right?
name. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Jason.
Big bad guy that we'll talk about later.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
certainly a big bad. Very important to to like the plot too.
Yeah,
Oh,
very much
exactly.
so.
A big turning point at that point. I thought it
Um,
was very interesting that a binge eater was loose, especially in Antaiku's area, almost in a sense, and it was just calm and casual,
and they do that
especially with
anime
how much
style.
risk that was taken, right?
Mhm.
Like a binge eater, that's just going to attract, for example, the doves. It's going to bring them in, and it's like you think Antaiku at that point would, want to have a little bit more of a say into something, and be like, "Yo, this is my area. What's going
Yeah.
on?" Because they're very territorial.
Mhm.
Even from the first season of Nishiko, like very territorial, and it's like, ooh, so that's where I was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, this must mean that this chick is badass. Like she's a big old badass chick. Okay, no one wants
Yeah,
to mess with her.
Exactly. Yeah,
because
you
if
get those
because if
OP
yeah.
vibes.
So if you guys didn't know, Anteiku is a coffee shop run by a bunch of ghouls, and these ghouls are actually what I would say the most wholesome ghouls that you can find in all of Tokyo. They
Yes.
kind of they source their food in a wholesome way. They kind of take care of people who are in trouble or ghouls who are struggling and whatnot. So they kind of run what I believe is the 11th ward, correct?
I think
Is
it's
it the
the
11th
11th
ward?
ward. And I think they're
Yeah.
sort of, if you look at it as a social commentary, like you were saying, Chusky, the way they're so casual about eating, you can almost compare that to the way carnivorous like human beings are, like people that eat meat, and then you have like the Anteku group who you could almost compare to people who like source organically and source cage free and stuff like that could almost be considered a social commentary on meat eaters and vegetarians and vegans and what like I don't know. I might be grasping at straws, but something I noticed.
What I would say is you have the regular ghoul that's like your casual hunter who
Hmm.
hunts for the meat like deer and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I feel like Anteku is like the one that's like, oh, this cow has just passed away. All right, now we can eat it, right?
Yeah, exactly,
So
exactly. Like
yeah,
yeah, that's what I meant about yeah, like source organically and source
yeah.
naturally and way yeah, exactly.
So after Rize takes a big old chomp out of Kaneki, she then just basically mutilates him, bodies him, tears him up, and then as she's going for the very last swipe to kill him and to eat him completely, out of nowhere, a bunch of steel beams from the construction site that they're in fall down and crush her. Right? They completely crush her. Now there is speculation that that wasn't an accident, but we'll get into that later. So she gets crushed, and then all of a sudden Kaneki is like on the brink of death and he wakes up in a hospital bed. And he wakes up with one eye that is completely black with a red pupil and one eye that it looks like a human eye. And he doesn't know what's going on and he doesn't know what's happening. And he meets this doctor, I believe is
Well, I'm glad you're having a good time, East Coast. Thanks for hanging out. If you have any commentary on the show, please feel free to drop it. I'll read it out loud. We'll talk about it, and it'll be in the podcast, brother.
failing organs with her organs. And that's where we stand at the moment. And then he's given a handful of hospital food and whatnot, but he's just not hungry. He can't eat it. He can't hold it down because he just wants to throw it all up and he doesn't understand why and what's going on to
Yeah,
him.
the scene where he goes to the store and buys like a bunch of different food, and he's like on his. It's very emotional. He's on his knees, and he's like, oh, because he has to confront the reality of what's happening, and he
Yeah.
absolutely doesn't want to. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
So
And the fact that Hide dropped off a bunch of food for him, even some of his most favorite food that he's ever had.
Right.
And it
yeah.
was, that was just a devastating realization that this is something that he has to accept going forward, especially when the TV's turning on and he's listening to the news and the news is literally listing off all the symptoms he's having. And that's what to me is very similar to people doing a Google search on I'm feeling this, what do I have? And it's like, oh my
Exactly.
God, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's the same reaction.
Yeah. The WebMD. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
dude. So what the doctor tells Kaneki is that we replace your failing liver or no failing kidney with Rize's kidney, but in reality it wasn't actually the kidney. It was a I forget the
What is up? What is up, Great Catsby? What is up, my man? How you living, brother?
inside of a ghoul that produces a kagune. So they take the kagune from Rize and implant it into Kaneki, and now Kaneki is half ghoul, half human. In this experience that they're explaining here, where he is eating food and vomiting and is trying to put it down, and he's currently having an internal crisis. He's having an existential crisis between am I human, am I ghoul, what's going on, and he breaks down. The way that they depict the mental breakdown and how unhinged he becomes is incredibly executed in
That's
my
what, yeah,
opinion,
that
guys.
scene in the room when he's on his knees and just bawling and like it was pretty fucking emotional. And that's like I said, this second time around really sucked me into the characters. Like watching that in my bed, colored lights on, it's like late at night, and I'm like watching this dude, like you said, have the existential crisis, almost the negative catharsis realization that like, oh my God, I have to live my life this way now. Like, do I
Yeah.
want to live my life at all like this? Like, he's just so many questions to answer. It's an existential crisis, like you said.
Yeah, the big question comes in: am I human or am I ghoul? Because if you can no longer do the function of a human as well as a ghoul, well, in my eyes, that would lead more towards a ghoul, where it's like, wait, I can't eat human food anymore, and that comes into vampires, even for an example, like zombies, things like that, where they can't eat fresh food, and it literally turns their stomach sick. And so when he's coming back and he's trying to live a normal life, and he can no longer live that normal life, well, that's when we're looking at, okay, well, he needs to start realizing that he is now transforming or fulfilling that role as a ghoul a lot more than a human.
Yes,
Mhm.
most definitely. He actually gets to a point where he is so hungry he just starts going outside and he's walking around town and he's just like,
Yeah, we got
like,
Chusky in here, bro. It's awesome.
incredible, what is this smell? And he realizes that it's humans, that he wants to eat human, and he's
Oh,
having
it
this
shocks the
internal
hell
like,
out of him, dude.
yeah,
He's
it
like,
shocks him.
what? I'm
He doesn't know what's
disgusting.
happening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
And
one
it's
deciding
crazy.
moment was insane before he leaves, when he's sitting there deciding what, like, am I still a human or not, after he looks in the mirror and there's that knife scene. That knife scene is a very, interesting scene, because that's like the ultimate,
Oh,
like, I
breaking
need
when
to
he
figure
shatters the
out,
knife, right?
shatter the knife
Yes,
Yes,
on
yeah,
yes,
that's a
yes.
good scene.
and it's
Yeah,
almost a point where it's just like, that's for him, where he decides, and it almost finalizes a little bit more so of, I'm no longer fully human. What does
yeah,
that mean to me as Kaneki now? What does that mean to me? How's my life going to live? And that's where he starts to go for a walk.
Right.
yep.
And that was a terrible walk.
Oh, yeah. If
That
he
was
would
a
have just never
very
gone.
terrible walk. Yeah, because I remember he had the moment who was like, all right, well, it's this new organ that's inside of me that's making me this way, so let me just get rid of it. And that was outrageous that he went to go like, stab himself and just broke and shattered, dude. Crazy.
That's an ultimate decision there, and he found out the answer. So
True. What is up, Lepeka? Thanks for being here.
Moving forward, guys, he then goes and ends up running in. He ends up smelling an incredible smell. He's not really sure what the smell is. He's just chasing after it. He
Yep.
ends up stumbling upon a random ghoul eating a human in a random back alleyway. And this is where you first meet Kishio, who is an individual who stops by and he's like, "This is my territory." And he goes and then kills the ghoul that is eating the human, while Kaneki is just sitting there in a daze. He's just dazed and confused. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's completely shocked. He doesn't know how to handle the situation. And from there you then meet Toka as well. There's a whole bunch of people that just kind of enter the scene now.
Kishio, is it Kishio Nishiki? Nishiki?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, an
Yes.
interesting
Yes.
scene. Kaneki's sitting there like frozen in fear and shock because he's not only realized that the delicious smell he wants to eat a human being. He comes in and Kishio's like with the first time we see him, he's incredibly violent, incredibly
Yeah.
dominant, like territorial, like scary as shit. You'd think that okay, this is a bad guy now. Like so, it's actually pretty interesting the way that flips very quickly in the next episode or two.
Oh yeah, a huge flip. I
Right?
mean, from here you have Kishio's actually threatening Kaneki right at this point, right? He's like, "Why are you in my territory?"
What are you
He
doing
has him
here?
pinned up against the wall, and then Toka shows up and saying, "Nah, this ain't your territory, fam. This is Rize's territory. You gotta step back for a second." And
Right.
Toka kicks his ass, and then she offers Kaneki some human, like a human arm, I believe. And then Kaneki's like, "Nah, I can't do that. I can't eat that. I'm human." And this is where the internal strife begins.
Yeah, it's very evident here. He's like, you can see him back and forth. He's like, "Oh, I want it," but like, "No, I can't." Like, the
very much
Rize
so,
parts.
like on the dying bed of hunger, where it's like,
Yeah,
I
he's
am so
starving.
hungry that, like, I'm salivating because I want this, but it's looking at it like, I can't eat that because that's the same as me. That's another human. That's another life that was just there walking down the road 10 minutes ago.
Hmm.
And when it
Yeah.
frustrates Toka, that's really where it comes in, as in, like, Toka has a very clear mindset. You're a ghoul, you're not a ghoul. Like, that's where it goes. And when she meets someone who's almost halfway in between, you can see that anger come out of her. You can just literally
Yeah.
see that. Like, you're doing this to yourself. You're endangering people. You're endangering ourselves in this ward.
Hmm.
You need to handle your business and eat up.
She literally says, "Get your shit together, or we're gonna have an issue here." That's basically how that
And
went
it's
down.
important. You can tell Kaneki's shocked because he doesn't even realize the fact that like he didn't kill this person. This person's already dead. So him eating them as food really, I mean, ethically and morally, it's a blurred line. But I mean, he didn't end this person's life for food. But he's still in shock and just can't bring himself to even consider eating, yeah, another human being. Because not that long ago, he just was one.
So like 2
Yeah.
days ago, he wakes up, he's looking for his favorite burger. Now his favorite burger is, just a chunk of thigh.
As
It's
if he
like,
was
man,
actually
thigh
eating.
chunk.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I think is
Yeah.
funny. It's reversed, right? Like as if he was actually eating human flesh. The burger tastes disgusting. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Outrageous, dude. So then after this, he then goes back. He goes back to school, correct? And he's just kind of like vibing with Hide, and then Hide's like, "Oh, I need you to go. I need you to come with me to go ahead and meet this upperclassman that I'm working with right now."
Yes.
Then
Yep.
lo and behold, that upperclassman is actually Nishio, right?
Yeah,
Nishio,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ends up being Nishio, and then he's like super casual, bro. And the thing that blows Kaneki's mind is that Hide gives Nishio a little like I forget what they're called, these little fish cookie things,
Yeah.
and he eats it whole, doesn't throw up. Straight face, just eats it without an issue, and it's like
And this leaves
Kaneki's like,
Kaneki
how
extremely
did you do that?
confused. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
what is going on? How is that possible?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll let Nova explain what happens next from there.
I feel like we are missing a big part after Toka kicks the crap out of Kenny.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Well, that's the first time where Kaneki almost gets, invited into Anteku, right? Because
Yes.
the manager comes out there,
Yep.
and the manager's like, Toka, like, this isn't the way of Anteku. Like, this isn't what we're meant to do, to kick the crap out of a newly turned ghoul or whatever it may be. So that's where Kaneki gets his first taste of coffee.
Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
that's true.
Yeah.
That is
For some reason,
true.
when he
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
invited back, he's sitting there and he's like, the manager sits him down and is like, hey, okay, you know what? There's going to be some things. He gives him a little bit of a rundown. All right. He's like, try this. He makes him an amazing cup of coffee. Kaneki is hesitant. Any type of food beforehand, just, can't do it. He lifts the cup up, takes a sip, and he is absolutely surprised and amazed because for some reason, this coffee here
Is edible.
sits well with him.
Yeah,
It's absolutely drinkable, eatable, edible. Like, it blows his mind because then he's like, what?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's back at the coffee shop where it all started.
Yeah,
And
literally full circle.
they explain
Full
this just a
circle.
little bit. I think it's they do use blood, right, in the coffee.
In the sugar
Yep.
cubes, there's a
In the
little
sugar
bit of extra
cubes,
stuff
yep,
in the sugar
yep,
cubes
yep.
there
Yep.
Yeah.
that allow him to. And so when at the end of that, where right before he goes back to school, the manager there, well, he goes ahead and gives him a little package, slips him that package, like, you know what, like,
Here's some
hey,
food
you're
to
gonna have
sustain
some
you.
issues just the same as you did beforehand. With those issues, here's something that you're gonna want to try that'll keep you away. And Kaneki's obviously very hesitant because he's like, wait, the only thing that helps me is either flesh and then he's just like, don't ask.
Don't
Yeah.
ask. Just eat.
You don't
want to
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, he does have that moment. And it just as a side note, this show gives you such an appreciation for like coffee machines and coffee making.
And
For,
how
like, the art
prevalent
of, like,
it is in
actually
Japan.
making
Yeah.
a slow brew coffee. So nice.
It really is.
Thank you for bringing that up, Chu.
Absolutely, Chusky. Sorry, I watched the series, but it was a couple weeks ago. We had to reschedule the show, so it's a little like the timeline is a little blurry in my head. But
Oh,
yeah,
hey,
we
no
have
worries.
Hide, Nishio, I think it is, and Kaneki all in the same room together. Kaneki's freaked out, and like Hide, I keep wanting to call him Hideo. Kind of looks at Kaneki, and that's like where you see it. Like he's recognizing him, and he's like, "I know who you are. I know what you're doing here." But there's a lot said in that scene before they start speaking. You know what I mean? Like the way Hideo looks at Kaneki, and it's kind of almost understood, like not here, not in front of Hide. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's that maintaining that private sense that,
Mhm.
the whole private life of what happens afterwards, right? Like, I know myself personally, if I was put in a situation like that and if I detested human food and if I had to eat a fish cookie just to have that, thrown out the window 10 seconds later, I would look over and I'd be like, you're going down first, man. I took that bite and now I'm going to go throw up. But as soon as I'm back, you're going down.
And like I mentioned, I think that scene really humanizes Nishiki. This shows that he is capable of not being terrifying. Like we only saw him in that terrifying state, and now we see him being calm, being friendly with Hideo and Kaneki. He's eating food. Little bit of a womanizer, it seems like, but
Yeah, a little bit. But his actual character, though, he has care for one specific
he has
woman, which we'll
ethics.
see
He has
later.
morals.
Yeah.
We see that he is capable of good behavior.
But
Yeah.
at this individual moment, he has the worst behavior. They end up going for a walk, and then out of nowhere, when they're walking down a random little alleyway, man's just big boots Hide down a fucking alleyway and just yeets him. So then Kaneki's just shook, like, oh my god, my friend's gonna die.
Yeah.
And he's just like, and Nishiki's just bodying Hide, hurting him, stomping on him and shit while he's passed out. And Kaneki finally has like a realization that he needs to protect his friend, so he releases his Kagune for the very first time. And what we'll see here is that the Kagune is actually the same as Rize's, and that's what takes Nishiki by surprise. Nishiki's like, wait, that's Rize's.
Because
And he doesn't
Nishiki
know
just
how
tried to take
respond.
over Rize's territory. Just try like as soon as she was like gone, he's like, I'm moving into her territory. So he recognized that Kagune instantly. And it's his intentions are weird because Nishiki's also confused. He's like, why is Kaneki with Hide? what is he doing? Is he grooming Hide to eat him? Like, so I
Yeah.
think Nishiki might have even had like a weird protective sense, trying to get Kaneki to admit to what he was doing. I think maybe that might have been what the brutal assault was about, was like trying to get Kaneki to like, what are you like, to come forward and be honest and truthful. But obviously that's not what
Yeah.
was
Tough one.
happening.
I was gonna say that's a very
Yeah,
tough one
that's
too,
just my
though,
opinion.
because Hide had to explain to Nishiki about his best friend, about his friend that he grew up with, that it was his absolute main man friend. Like,
Hmm.
so he did have that there, and so
That's
Nishiki
true.
was
He had a
absolutely
background.
surprised.
That's true.
Was absolutely surprised at that point. He's like, okay, well, is this again someone approaching my territory? Because now this dude is showing up the very next day or the next couple days, and he's right in front of me in this situation here where it's like there's a huge moment of, okay, do I protect my privacy or my hidden identity? Do
Right.
we do this? How do I play this off right? And in a sense, it was
Yeah,
Nishiki
Jay,
at the end
totally.
of the day, which we'll
No,
find a
no.
little bit later here, is what his main internal strife is looking after himself.
Yeah.
Like Nishiki,
Absolutely.
that's what it came
It's
down to. Him against the world.
yeah.
He's a
And
hunter.
then I mean he's a hunter. He does have his one female
Yep.
kind of consort who's
Certainly.
also a human. Yeah, so he most likely will see a parallel. We'll see a parallel between Kaneki and Hide, as well as Nishiki and his significant other.
Mhm.
But until that moment, we basically Kaneki kind of loses it. He releases his Kagune and absolutely just starts
Well,
shredding
he has
Nishiki,
no
bro. One of
scale,
the
right?
crazy.
No
Yeah,
gauge. He
no
doesn't know
scale.
how
Yeah,
powerful he is. He
no,
doesn't know he could
has no idea.
destroy Nishiki at this moment. Yeah.
So he's literally just like continuously shanking him up all the way up to the top of the road, where like you'll see like people are walking by, and this guy's just like, I'm gonna die. Like he's
Yo, no
literally,
worries,
I'm
Slayer
gonna
Death.
die
We'll have the
here. And
podcast
then he
up like
eventually falls
tomorrow so
down,
that you can
and
listen
then
to it
at
if you
that
want. It'll
point,
be
Kaneki is
downloadable
in
for
such
free.
a daze or a rage that he actually ends up deciding that he might go ahead and eat Hide. And then luckily he then stops because someone wants to finish that sentence. Who stops him from eating Hide?
It's I can't remember her name, right there on screen. She's on my screen. She works at Anteku. She's the blue short hair. It starts with a K. Can someone say her name?
Oh,
It's Toka.
Toka.
Toka,
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, not a K, a T. Toka. Sorry, Toka
Yeah.
steps
When you
in.
put
So
me
she,
up with the K, I was like, oh god. Was there someone else with purple? I was like, oh no.
yeah. So Toka basically pulls him aside and like slaps him back into reality and says, "Hey, if you do this, understand what the repercussions are.
You're crossing a
And
line.
understand
Yeah.
you're crossing a line. Cause if you don't know, Toka also has a human friend that she also really cares about too, and that she will actually force herself to eat food, human food and whatnot, because that girl made it for her. So you'll notice that a lot of these characters have those human friends that kind of give them that connection to humanity,
I
right?
think that
Rather than just being a full
generalizes Anteku and the
Yeah.
11th Ward in a total vibe. Like most of those ghouls that are involved with Anteku do this because they have sentimental attachments or feelings to a human and or someone who used to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like one of the, I would say that's the second time that the ghoul side has
We're
really
covering the
taken over
first season,
Kaneki,
Slayer.
right?
First
And then
season.
you start to see that all right, he goes and he joins Inteku. He after he like passes out from that whole entire scene that he caused, right? He
Yeah,
is
he's
also in
exhausted
Inteku,
too. Yeah.
being taken care of. And then Kaneki decides, all right, you know what? I'm going to join Inteku. I'm going to work here. I'm going to kind of learn from these other ghouls, and then the whole storyline progresses from there. That's basically the beginning of so much that kind of opens the doors for everybody.
Which is
Oh, I
crazy because
agree.
not only do he's half ghoul now, so we see him physically changing quite a bit, but now we see
Yeah.
his like emotional and psychological state changing. He went from being an introvert to now opening up to a group of people, right? Like going into
Yeah.
somewhere he doesn't know. Like he's like you can already see the difference in Kaneki. Yeah.
Yeah. Most
Even though he
definitely.
still seems shy, he still seems tender. It's like he wouldn't have ever done this had he not, been turned into a
Yeah.
half ghoul, half demon, half ghoul.
The mental state of him is always so fluctuating too, because Rize's aura, her mentality, her personality is still intertwined with him almost, right?
Heavily,
Yeah.
she's messing with him. The
Yep.
hallucinations, the
The
whispers.
hallucinations are a
I
big
don't
one.
know if they're hallucinations or if they're actually like commentary from
Happening
her
and taking place.
psyche. Yeah.
To confirm for you guys, they are actually hallucinations
Okay.
that is happening within Kaneki's brain. Because Rize is No, never mind. Never mind. I'm not going to spoil anything. But they are
That's yeah,
hallucinations.
that's a
Yeah,
good
it's
confirmation right there.
hallucinations. Yeah, they're all hallucinations that are kind of messing with his own psyche because he knows that this part of her is inside of him. So
Mhm.
he needs to embody the ghoul side of him. So he personifies that kind of ghoul aspect of his life to Rize, and Rize then takes form within his mind. That's why later in the actual show, where you see in the very, very end, where they finally kind of touch and they make grasp, and then all the white flowers turn red and they become one. Now he has gone full ghoul at that moment, right?
Yep.
So he's at this moment right now when he has these hallucinations, he's trying to separate himself. He's trying to keep his humanity and his ghoul self separate and kind of in two different realms. When in reality, they're fighting to be part of the exact same being.
Right.
So that's what's happening in his mind right now.
I would say the trauma separates the two there completely, just for the fact that
Well
she had
said.
so much relation, so many like similarities to himself, the books, everything. That experience that he first initially has as a hardcore introvert, all that right there, boom, and the next thing you know, life-changing events. So Rize is going to be stuck in almost a very traumatic experience in his mind that separates his personalities. And that,
Absolutely.
like he says, leads into the whole scene where they connect and boom, that's it.
Speaking of the books, we got a question coming in from chat. Slayer Death 66 asks, "Do you guys remember the name of the author?" And I don't. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the name of the author of the book. I think it was called The Black Goat or something was the name of the book, but I don't remember the author.
The Black Goat.
The book that Rize's reading that Kaneki noticed, like that author that they love. I'm trying to take
I'll look it up. I'm gonna look it up now.
a legit question coming in. Is Chusky's mustache real? Pull on it and see. Looks very real to me. Looks very real to me.
Bro, that was such a big fucking. Okay, all right. So I know who it is. I know who the real individual is that writes those books.
Uh-huh.
But she also has an author name. Are they looking for the author name, or are they looking for the actual person?
It was
who is
just
the like
in quotes. The author of the book Kaneki reads. That was
yeah, so it's Eto. If you guys have never seen Eto, this is what she looks like. She is part of Aogiri Tree.
Aogiri Tree, another organization. There's a lot of secret organizations in this series, which also draws me in. I like secret organizations.
So Eto is the one who wears the little like kind of like purple like bunny like sweater and then has bandages all over her body. She's actually the writer of all the books that Kaneki likes.
Oh,
so
wow.
that gives you a little like kind of insight.
Yeah, it's absolutely nutty how it works.
Yeah, she's actually one of like the heads of Aogiri Tree as well, which is crazy.
And I think getting back to the plot, I think around this time is when we start, and I could be skipping some scenes, and stop me please if I'm skipping important scenes, but we start getting introduced to the doves and what they're up to and kind of how they operate.
Yeah, and who they are. Yeah. You get to meet who Mato is. You get to meet who Arima is, and all these kind of big individuals within the Dove kind of group. I believe they're called the CCG, right?
Right. And the group we're talking about, if you guys aren't familiar with the series, they're basically like a special task force assigned to hunt down ghouls and like keep everything kosher with the ghoul districts. And yeah, they're the special task force assigned to that. They're able to use some pretty badass weapons. They've achieved some sort of technology that allows them to use Cogne, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, which they're called Quinkes.
Quinke,
yes.
Yeah,
Quinkes.
Yeah, well,
they're a government organization.
Oh, are they like federal?
Yeah, I believe they're basically like this world's type of like FBI that handles this type of stuff. So basically all their Quinkes, eventually one day these guys who were a bunch of FBI guys with a bunch of pistols ended up killing a ghoul, and then they happened to come across their Kagune and they chopped that shit off, put it into a little device, and now they're able to use them as weapons, which are now called Quinkes. And then you're able to eventually, you'll see later that instead of weapons, they can also create armor, which you'll see later in the season, which is called Arata armor. But what happens is the armor feeds off of your blood while you use it, which is crazy. So it's still a living thing.
It costs stamina. It costs physicality to use. Yeah. No doubt.
Oh yeah, so the real risk that comes in with using it, the body deteriorates to such a point that if you fully unlock it, you're sitting there afterwards with almost a fully exhausted body because you have an exoskeleton that's really a ghoul, essentially like Cognés that are eating away at you as ghouls gain power. So does your armor. Same type of turnover.
Yep,
And I
yep,
think
yep.
that's important now that it shows that we get to meet the Doves, we get to meet Amond and his part.
Yeah.
Amond's like a newer recruit, and his partner. I'm spacing his name. Is it Chimon?
Motto.
Mato.
Mato, Mato,
Mato. Mato.
Mato. Who's pretty
Who, by the
wild.
way, yeah, he's a crazy dude.
I
Man
like
is
Mato.
shook.
He's awesome.
He's definitely seen some shit. I mean, he's definitely seen some shit. He has a crazy look in his eyes. He is super sadistic, and you could say he is I guess, like the most opposing force towards ghouls. He genuinely hates them. He thinks of them as inferior beings, and this kind of affects how Amon also develops as an individual too, and how he looks at the world as well. So he was actually Mato is kind of perceived as almost as a bad guy, but in reality, he's not really that bad of a guy.
There's
He
a
just has some
method to his
sadistic
madness,
tendencies.
right?
Yeah,
And that's why I think Amon starts to respect him when he starts to see that methodology in his madness and the way it works and what he stands for. And that's when Amon really starts to like, okay, like I absolutely Mato, like
Yeah, I do
yeah,
like
most
how
definitely.
like Amon almost takes
Be right
in
back.
all the
absolutely.
exact like the good traits from Motto, takes them away and puts them into himself because Amon there, yes, he's very much like an old fashioned soldier, right? That's
Yeah.
what I almost found
He's
from
like,
him. Like
yeah,
he's very by
super
the books, is what
traditionalist,
it is.
moralist. Yeah.
Yeah, and right, and so that's where you pair him up with such like a wild card like Motto, where it's just like, okay, well, there's a ton of madness. Everyone calls him the crazy guy, but Almon's able to sit there and see that as like, hey, no, he is right in the ways that he do certain things. You just have to translate them, and for him, it's an instant translation because he's like, wait, I don't need to know about the other, but like the other stuff there. I'll do it this way. He has his own quirks too. If you remember from one of the episodes there where he goes out to lunch with one of his coworkers there after a traumatic event, which will happen a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he goes out there and, he has a big heart too, where it's almost like you can tell that he cares about humanity and the people around him. But then it expands so much further just from humanity, where it's just life in general you find out.
I
So
think
that was a really cool scene.
absolutely. I think it well said. Mato is the balancing mechanism for Amon. Like Amon, like you said, almost too moralist, almost too by the book. Bringing Mato in helps him, like it brings him up and kind of puts him in a better middle space where he's balanced. And he's like, sometimes you have to go to the extremes, sometimes you have to play it by the book. But like before Mato, he's like you said, he's a traditionalist, basically your grunt infantry soldier doing everything by the book. But I think that adds a great balance to his character.
It
And
really
this,
does.
That's actually a really good point. That's a
yeah.
really good point because you'll see that Amon has to kind of enact that little bit of madness
Mhm.
later in the later seasons when he has to fight Kaneki as well.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool stuff that comes from that. And then along with that, when you meet Mato and you meet Amon, you kind of get a little bit of background character. You then see them take on a ghoul where it's like a little old lady, which is really really interesting to see, kind of see the method to Mato's madness. But then what moves forward from here is then we then get to see Jason for the first time in a
Right.
very
This
long time.
brings the whole worldly like concept and problem into one. Like now we see what's all
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jason goes to a specific ghoul to get his wrench remade because Rize yeeted that shit off of a building and took it. So he went to a specific ghoul to get it done. That specific ghoul had a wife and a daughter, and they then are hanging out there. And then Mato and Amon then kind of ambush the area. And then what happens is they go ahead and they kill the maker of the said weapons for other ghouls, and then so on and so forth. Those individuals, that wife and that daughter, end up going to Anteku for refuge.
Yeah, they're forced to flee and head toward
Yes.
Anteku, where ghouls can have a safe place. It's
Yep.
very interesting. Yeah. Go ahead,
I do
Jason.
And you'll see
want to say as well. Sorry, continue, Fallen.
you'll see that in that fight right there when they're fighting Jason, they actually rank him as an SS rated ghoul as well. So
Yeah.
they have the Doves have a ranking system for all these different ghouls, right? They have an S grade, SS plus, they have an A grade, so on and so forth.
It's Forza,
the
but
SS
in an
plus
anime.
yeah, so they have these SS plus individuals that are very very high tier, high end ghouls that are individuals that you kind of just you don't fuck with them if you don't have a squad with you, right?
Yep. Yeah, because they're
'Cause-
humans. The doves are humans. Like we have some
Yeah.
weapons to help us out, but our bodies still take human damage. Like we're not as tough as ghouls. So
yeah, you
we
don't
try to
regenerate
outnumber them.
instantly.
Mhm.
Yeah, You don't have the stamina to match up. So that type of stuff is wild. And then now you meet these two very crucial individuals to Kaneki's development as a character as well. They take refuge at Inteku, and what happens is Kaneki meets the daughter, which her name is passing me by. Anyone remember
Hinami.
that name?
Hinami.
Hinami. Yeah, Hinami. And then here, Chusky, you want to explain that relationship that they have together?
Absolutely. The one thing I do want to bring up quickly though is the fact of Anteko's view on humanity finding out any type of ghoul identity. Because that is such a key and critical part for Anteko being, those people that, like you said, are the people looking for the organic, the people who are kind of the in between. Well, they have a very strict policy on humans finding out the identities of any of the ghouls. Because if it puts them
Absolutely.
in risk, it's at the end of the day, it puts them at risk. Their method is cut them out, kill them completely without
And
remorse,
Yeah.
as fast as possible.
my chat just made a very interesting comment that goes right alongside with that, and he's like, "Well, too much." It's not a spoiler actually, but he said the whole reason Mato hates the ghouls is because of a ghoul, namely the owl, aka the owner of Anteku, killed his wife. So now, like, you see why the owner of Anteku is so interested in keeping those identities hidden, like, because now, Mato has like he wants to kill him, like he knows who he is and he wants him dead. Like it's a rivalry
Mhm.
in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like now you see why that policy was instituted, like to
Yep. No,
protect ghouls from
absolutely.
doves. Yeah. To pro-
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
that point there, Hide and Kaneki's relationship yet again. Hide knows that Kaneki is a ghoul.
Mhm.
By
Yeah.
all means, at the end of it, when Kaneki comes back to the coffee shop and everything, and Hide's laying on the bed there. Kaneki's super happy that his best friend's still alive, that he didn't kill his best friend. And Hide's sitting there as the manager's talking to Kaneki. Hide has his eyes open. He knows what's up, but he respects Kaneki enough to not be like, Kaneki, I know you're a ghoul. And
He
compliment
wants
his
he
life
wants Kaneki to come forward.
to
You know.
open up to him
Yeah,
and everything at that
exactly.
point,
Because he
which is
knows.
huge, man.
Yeah, Hide
Because
has
otherwise,
that
if he
extra
would have woke
sense.
up, he would have been killed. If he would have woken up and been like, "Oh, sorry, good conversation," what? He would have been dead right there on that spot, and that would have
They
been
can't risk
the end
it.
of Benteku and
Yeah,
Kaneki, right? So,
Yeah.
the greater
you
good.
know,
Anteku is very much about the greater good.
yep, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Hinami and Kaneki's relationship, it's a very, very, very cool and interesting relationship because Kaneki has no family. And Teku has become that family.
Right.
Hinami coming in, the mother coming in. He's able to see that relationship, that actual like proper relationship between mother and daughter. And Kaneki is that almost that translating voice between the mother and daughter at a lot of the times. Because Hinami's always wanting her dad. I want to go see Papa. I want to go there. And the mother is, left without being the bad character, being like, well, we can't, hon, we can't. Kaneki can see that, and so he goes to talk to Hinami all the time. He ends up developing
Mhm.
a really good older brother, younger sister relationship there.
Yeah,
where
he
now
ends up
it's
teaching her. He
right.
teaches her how to like read properly, read proper kanji, and like, and she's also reading books that he likes. So like, he was teaching her like this little like. That's a great example. It's an older brother little sister relationship that it's really good. Well done.
in the ghoul society there. Like it's huge where Kaneki's trying to figure out his own life, human and ghoul. He's still at that point of confliction. But now it's making the ghoul side a little bit easier because here comes along a family of ghouls, for an example, and it's just he builds that relationship of older brother, younger sister, and he's teaching her to read all these other things, and it goes to show that it's almost easing him into the ghoul life. And it's almost transitioning and bypassing his human life, which to be honest, after he starts working at Anteku, is pretty much null and void. There's not very much that we see about him going into his human life again, besides a
Yeah.
brief moment at school. But other than that, it's he's working at the coffee shop, he's there, and after that fight with Nishiki, like, whew, that was a big surprise that came in shortly
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Hide was even thrown off by that, like, what? How does this happen? Yeah, and that leads into
Yeah.
Nishiki getting a job at Anteku.
Yep.
Yep.
And you see, you'll notice that a lot of the individuals who work on Teku were once very much so prominent ghouls from back in the day, leaders of ghoul groups and gangs that have all kind of like stepped away from that lifestyle. Once again, kind of shout out to Masaomi. Stepped away from that lifestyle of leading the gangs and whatnot, and then joined a little family together to kind of lead a proper and wholesome lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
pretty crazy. Yeah.
I think Kaneki with Anteku, these are the first people in his life he's ever been able to fully like trust, because
Yeah.
they're not hurting him. Like his mom, like was like helped him, but like abused him and stuff. And like Hide's great, but Hide was like his only friend, and Kaneki's still pretty introverted. Like now he can finally fully trust and be honest about who he is and people to relate to, because Hide's his friend, but Hide doesn't relate to Kaneki very well. Hide doesn't like read books all that often. He's like, what? Like you're taking her to a bookstore? That's weird. So I think yeah, this
When
is where
there's
Kaneki finally has people he can trust.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like different roles that they play too, right? So you have Yomo, right? Who trains Kaneki in the tunnels and like trains him how to fight and how to protect himself. Older brother type of figure. Now you have the mother-daughter figure. Now you have the grandfather figure. Now you have the almost sister slash love interest Toka figure, which I would have loved for them to have gotten together. Just saying, but they didn't. So I mean, it's fine.
Hmm.
But yeah, so like I was a part of that shift. But like that's it's just really nice to see that he's now experiencing all the diverse relationships that he's been lacking in his life by entering this world of ghouls.
Right, and this is where they put the pedal to the metal on the character introduction. This is where you start to meet a lot of people. We meet Tsukiyama, we meet the mask maker. Where is the? It's not
Otto.
Yeah, Uta.
Uta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
have all the pop figures upstairs, up above me, so I can check names. Yeah,
um,
Uta is which, by the way, great character. I love Uta. Really, really nifty guy. He's very peculiar and eccentric individual. And if you guys don't know, so all the ghouls when they go out hunting or they go and do any sort of initiative or anything like that, they usually wear masks to hide their identity, especially in the 11th Ward. So Uta is the mask maker. He is the one who creates all these unique masks that are meant to represent and symbolize the individuality of that said ghoul.
it's quite
So he creates
individualistic,
that.
right? For like a battle mask, like it is very
Yeah.
ritualistic the way they treat, or at least Uta treats these masks, and the ghouls do too, because they do wear them and they're like they care about the design of it. But like, I mean, he's very I don't know, I can't think of a word. He's just very into it. Really gives a shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also kind of represents like the personality of the individual, right? So Toka is the rabbit, right? You
Oh,
have
certainly, yeah.
Kaneki is the one-eyed ghoul. You have the hound. You have the I think there's the monkey mask, right? The one gorilla one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Dog mask.
each one yeah. So each one represents an individual's kind of personality and how they hold themselves and how they are as an individual, right? And I really like that individualism, but also unified together as one family through
Mhm.
Anteku. So it's really it's really beautifully made and written. That I
There's
really enjoy it,
layers
guys.
to it, right? Because the mask is meant to
Yeah,
disguise them, but the mask is a reflection of their consciousness and inner personality, which is, I mean, you wouldn't know that if you were a dove, but it's kind of a clever way of doing that. But I
yeah,
also, touching on Uta and Tsukiyama, as I mentioned, I love that this show, like when it comes to the gender fluidity, really plays with that. And like you have no, like some characters you really couldn't put a peg on, and I don't think you're supposed to, which I really love. Like this show is just in the 21st century.
Oh,
Oh,
I
most
agree.
definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Most definitely.
We could talk about a little bit about the whole legend, almost. Yeah, I guess we could say more of a legend of the one-eyed ghoul,
Mhm.
right? You know, because like
Yes.
a human and a ghoul cannot technically have kids. It's very difficult, is what they say. It's very, very
Yeah.
difficult. But if it does happen and a one-eyed ghoul is made, as you know, the aftermath, whatever, that one-eyed ghoul is in fact stronger than both.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a legend among the ghouls themselves before Kaneki even came around.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
happened
rare enough to
before.
find.
They've talked about it. Yeah, they call him that. They're like a one-eyed ghoul. Like, yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
some mysteriousness about
They're
around
very
that.
rare. They're
Mhm.
very rare. So
Yeah.
Kaneki's situation, though, that's where it kind of becomes a little more interesting. Then,
Because it's
is
not
he
from
one of
birth.
those one-eyed ghouls?
Right.
Exactly. Is he one of those one-eyed ghouls that were born with that ability, or is he, artificially made in that sense with just a boosted ghoul in him? I guess. Like it's very very hard to decide because Suki
Which is
almost is
it's
hungry for him too, right?
Mhm.
Like wants him
yeah.
because of that.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Fairy Tale, the Dragon Slayers. How you have certain Dragon Slayers that are born and trained by the dragon, other ones that have the lacrima stones implanted into them, and you have all these different types of like Dragon Slayers. So now you have that kind of idea of, all right, you have the one-eyed ghoul who is the son of the owl, right? Who is out the leader of Aogiri Tree. That individual is born a one-eyed ghoul, half human, half ghoul. Now you have Kaneki, who is, I guess, a lacrima style ghoul, right? So he has been implanted with it, and then you actually meet other ones later in the future too. And a few of the different raids that you'll come across. But realistically, the actual big bad in my eyes to this show is Dr. Kano, who is the one who is creating all of these one-eyed ghouls and creating all of these lab rats in a sense, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep, because he did that
Certainly.
on purpose. He knew what was going on.
Yeah.
It was a situation where the conversation became a lot easier. Of let's contact the next of kin. Oh, he doesn't have it. We have to do this. And then
Yeah.
it's boom, it's done, right? Like no decisions were made, nothing else but himself. Where he was like, this is the perfect example for me to experiment and see what happens here. Like that was a scary part because
Yeah.
what about the doves? What about all these other things? Why was that the decision when the government agency is trying to kill all the ghouls? Why was that the recommendation from a hospital situation? Where's the standards? Like it wasn't like a hidden ward or anything. Like it was
Mhm.
right in a public hospital. You would
Yeah.
think that there'd be some issues with the doves or something coming through, or someone being like,
Well,
what?
he was very much so hidden about what he was doing. He's like, when you go and try and in the manga, they
I was
Kaneki
gonna
goes to
say
try
because
and
in the
find
anime
him.
it's very
In
vague.
It's very vague. In the manga, Kaneki goes to the hospital to try and find him, and he finds the nurse who was actually caretaking him, and he asks, "Where is the doctor? Where is Dr. Kano?" "Oh, he's not here right now. He's in Germany or some shit." She just makes excuses every single time, and eventually what happens is that he actually leads a raid that goes into his lab and whatnot, and that's way later after season one. And if you guys don't know, season two is not canon. There's certain parts that are canon within season two, but it's not actually canon.
Yep, I was
So
reading on that earlier, like how to
yeah,
watch it chronologically and just the background of the story and where the manga can come in and fill in gaps.
yeah. So definitely, if you guys can read the manga, definitely do it. But if you watch it from season one to season two, it's still a very enjoyable watch. Definitely very, very enjoyable. So moving forward, where we leave off? We left off with Kaneki meeting the mother daughter figures, right, and then
Mhm.
actually having a family within Anteku. And then after that, what happens is Mato is still hunting down the mother and the daughter,
Yep.
and they actually track them down because the mother purchased Hime, right? Is the name?
Yeah,
Hime?
the daughter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the daughter Hime.
Hinami. Yeah.
Hinami. I keep getting
Sorry,
mixed.
Hinami.
Hinami gets Hinami's was buying her a dress for her birthday just to make her feel special, and just got her a little dress. And Mato saw her where she went. The mother went out to the store, tracked her down, and found her. And then what happens is that they then end up cornering them, and then Mato ends up pulls out a quinque that's made out of her father, which is so savage in my opinion.
And I think it's
Outrageously
interesting the way
savage.
they lead up to that because they show you Hinami kind of like, I want to go see dad, I'm bored, like she's getting stir crazy and cabin fever, and so they're like, well, we'll take her out shopping. We'll take her out shopping, and then that's what
Yeah.
like kind of leads into that, like everything you just explained. So the way they set that
Yeah.
up is really really smooth
Oh
and
yeah,
fluid in the story.
the heart wrenching portion of it too is the fact she had just learned to read, right? And so the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing where the mother decided to give in to actually go out was due to the fact
Yo, thank you so much, Lunar Tech, for this 69 biddies. You're fucking hot, bro. I love you. Thank you for being here, man. Thank you.
my daughter, she wants to go and get something for the husband, all right, we'll go out to the store. And so they actually go to the bookstore there because she's learned to read.
Hmm.
Yeah.
She wants to go ahead and get a book for her dad. So that way she can, potentially show him all the cool words and everything that she used. Like, the cloud burst, whatever else. Like she's all excited about
Yeah,
this.
she's being
And
taught
so
a bunch of awesome kanji.
I love that you remember that the cloud burst.
That's the name
such
of
a
the
good
episode.
word. I love that you remember
Right,
that.
that word
Good
stuck
attention to
in.
detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that part definitely stuck in. So that's why, even as the mother and daughter were leaving the store and they were starting to leave, the mother starts to pick up on something. She sees the two guys with the phones, oh, damn, is that a dove? She's not sure because she was already hesitant of going out. She sees the doves there on the phone, so she starts moving a little faster. Come on, Hinami, let's go.
Right.
And then, Hinami, being the innocent child, is a little bit slower, whatever it is.
She's
Boom,
not
that
trying to
alley
alert
scene.
her to what's happening too. She's trying to like
Exactly.
stay low key.
Doesn't she say she smells dad? That
Yeah.
she's able to
I smell
smell her
Papa. I
father.
smell Papa.
Yeah.
And she books off and starts
Because of
sprinting
the
off on
Queen
her own
K,
too.
and that's so fucking like that's almost like heart wrenching and
Savage.
heartbreaking
It's
in there.
savage.
She smells her
Yeah.
father's like remains and weapon. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So long story short, Hinami ends up getting away because the mother ends up protecting her. And she has like these big, giant, like almost butterfly wing style of like a kagune.
Yeah.
Whereas the father has more so like a almost like a kind of centipede style kind of
Rope
like
chain
movement,
kind of
like a
sort.
rope
Like
chain.
Yeah.
Almost like
Yeah.
the Bankai of what's his name?
Renji.
Renji, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like Renji's Bankai there. The whole
Yeah.
thing, like that. It just, I looked at that and I was like,
Yo, thank you so much for stopping by, Lunar Tech. We love you. Enjoy your vacation, my man. If you guys haven't dropped a follow, hit Lunar Tech with a follow. That's my boy, and it is free to be a homie. Enjoy that vacation, bro.
Kaneki then watches Hinami's mother get killed by Mato, and he has another internal crisis because wow, I wasn't strong enough to move and try and do something to protect her, and that eats at him on the inside because he looks at Hinami like a little sister, and now he kind of takes like training super seriously.
Yeah, it becomes a massive internal motivation for him. He's like, I will no longer be in the position where I'm too frightened to react or move or save someone. If I can save someone, I will save someone.
Yeah, exactly.
mentality comes in strong as a motivator.
Yeah.
So more traumatic experiences for Kaneki, if you guys can tell. So he starts training drastically. Now you end up meeting Tsukiyama, right? Who is kind of as you guys, he's called the gourmet. So he's known as the gourmet. He's very much so into eclectic tastes. So he has very peculiar tastes for types of meat that he eats, and he ends up taking a liking to Kaneki because Kaneki's so innocent
and he's
and
a
all that jazz.
And so he's interested in the flip.
But he doesn't know that yet.
That's true.
He just meets Kaneki, he finds him interesting, he thinks
but he does smell
probably gonna be really
on
tasty,
him, right?
Yeah, he smells Riza because what happens is Tsukiyama ends up cutting Kaneki, uses his cloth to kind of wipe it up, and then he goes in the bathroom and has like a Hisoka moment where he's like, so he has like a little Hisoka moment. So he then invites Kaneki to this like this gourmet dinner experience, gets him all dressed up in a suit, ends up being a trap, and then now Kaneki is put into like a coliseum kind of setting where a bunch of ghouls and masks are watching, and he is the dinner for the evening. He's a special treat for everybody to eat.
Yeah.
So what they do is they put this giant chonky motherfucker into the pit just to fight him. And at that moment, Kaneki is running for his life. He's having a horrible experience because this guy is enormous.
Beating his ass, dude.
Beating the shit out of him. And at that moment, what happens is that this giant motherfucker just grabs him by the neck, and Kaneki is at life or like fight or flight moment, and his one eye opens up, right? And you see that one eye, and that's where Tsukiyama says, "Oh shit, this kid is worth more than just me giving other people gourmet."
It's kind of weird his morals, the way that switches. He goes from like, fuck it, I'll kill and eat him, to like, oh no, I'm your homie now. I love you. Like,
well, at that moment, he wanted to keep it for himself. He wanted Kaneki for himself. He just kills that big guy one slice real quick, and he's like, I want Kaneki for myself. Then after that, a whole entire like raid happens, and Juzo shows up, which Juzo's a fantastic character. He has all these stitches and shit all over him.
Mm-hmm.
He's another character
really cool
who
character.
Like you can't really tell if he's male or female. Yeah. He just has kind of like this ambiguous vibe to him because he's so sadistic and twisted.
Yeah.
And that kind of unravels, right? And then Kaneki ends up getting away, and then another whole arc takes place following this, which is incredible.
Yeah, Slayer Death mentions in chat, and I think we kind of touched on this, but we didn't directly say it. It's worth saying that Mato certainly uses the father's Queen K as a trap. Like, that's a total trap.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, he uses it to lure them out for sure. Good point, Slayer Death. Thank you. So yeah, a whole nother story arc kind of starts. I think the way we're kind of initially introduced to that is the Dove meeting, right? Like the Doves are talking about it and they're discussing like what's been happening and how they're going to combat the craziness.
Yeah, I mean, there's two kind of
correct me if I'm wrong.
At this moment in time, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, there's
Aogiri Tree is starting to make moves, right? And then you have Tsukiyama, who's also making moves, and then the Doves are now kind of making plans as to what is to happen next, because of what happened with the gourmets and all that jazz, right? Mm-hmm. So In this moment, Tsukiyama then kidnaps Nishiki's kind of human significant other. Kidnaps her and holds her basically ransom. So then what happens is Kaneki and Nishiki then plan to go and rescue her at this moment in time.
It was almost like, I wouldn't even say like as a ransom. It was more so of a wine and dine type thing. I feel like, honestly,
Yeah.
No
like
doubt. No
I love
doubt.
it.
Yeah.
looking at that situation, it was a nice little note, a little love note left there, and it was like more so along the lines of that he wanted to wine and dine Kaneki, and Kaneki actually be the one to eat Nishiki's significant other. So that way, after that point, that's where Suki would come in and then be like, well, now this is my ultimate meal. Now I'm going to dine on you, type of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
he wants to force Kaneki to do that, so that way his flavor is even better.
Yeah, can get even better. Yep, just like yeah, no, great example. So yeah, so then that kind of takes place. Tsukiyama is super powerful. He beats the shit out of everybody. Toka shows up to try and help. She gets the shit rocked out of her. And then Nishiki's just trying to hold back Tsukiyama because he's about to go ahead and eat Nishiki's significant other at this moment in time to gain a little bit more strength so that he can clap everybody's cheeks. And then at this moment in time, Kaneki then makes a decision and goes, Toka, you need to be stronger. Take a bite out of me. And then he gives his shoulder to her.
Yeah,
So
and the
pretty-
reason for that is just for the fact of power levels almost. It's, you only get so much power from eating, for an example, on Take the way they find their food, they go off and they find accidents, or they find, a cliff where, there's dead
Suicide.
bodies. Yeah.
That's such an
Yeah,
interesting
being left
scene with Yomo or Renji when he takes Kaneki out there to collect the suicide victim. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big one there. And so, like, the difference in power levels almost, and it goes to both to show that Anteku themselves, they don't, partake
back.
of live flesh, but they're sitting there and they're still considered such a force of nature that, hey, we don't want to mess with them at all. Like, but the moment that, Tsukiyama says, you know what, Toka, you've gotten weak. I used to want you. You used to have, this flair that kept me going, like, almost as much as Kaneki. And now look at you. Look at what you've become. And
Docile,
blah, blah, blah.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so, Kaneki, he starts to put all these things in his head. He's like, wait, so you're actually more powerful when you eat a live human, when you eat their flesh right from there instead of, and he's like, boom, instant solution. I am so weak yet again. I'm going to offer myself up as the shield of the fight.
And he's part
Here.
human, so
Boom.
that substance, that substance really
huge.
counts for a lot in the power level area. No doubt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, boom, that's him self-sacrificing yet again for the fight because he realizes his strength is not in fighting at this moment. His strength is the fact that he's still half human and can offer that source of power boost to Toka, who's clearly a beast and already kicked the crap out of him 15 times. So
Yeah.
that was a huge one.
I mean, she also has like a crazy Kagune too. It's a half wing, right?
Yeah, and she's able to shoot projectiles and everything else too.
Yeah. So that's like I don't think we mentioned it, but each Kagune has different styles. I guess there's different types. You have the projectile style ones, right? You have some that are more so defensively focused, some longer range focused, some are good close quarters, some are just outrageously OP, which you'll see in Aogiri Tree. And then you'll have ones that are kind of like simplistic, similar to Kaneki's, but super effective. So there's a lot of unique types. You'll see that a lot across many different animes too, where you kind of individualize different groupings.
Different power subcategories as well, everything along those lines. Because let's be real, when and the next scene I'm sure we'll probably be getting to is the Maru Hinami Toka fight scene almost, or I guess before that a little bit how Toka reacts and feels once Hinami's mother has been killed, right?
Yeah.
Like at that point, Toka's sitting there and she's already, let's be honest, she's been emotionally beaten for so long at this point because after that scene with Sokiyama and everything, what stops her, and it's down to her core of Anteku from killing Nishiki's significant other, was one word, one sentence. You're so beautiful.
Yep.
How can anyone think I'm beautiful? Yeah, that scene where she's sitting
and
on
that
the
threw
roof.
her off, and you can tell that she's going through such emotional strife, no matter what she is, that she can't decide where her morals lie anymore. Does she immediately kill this human to save Anteku as Nishiki's screaming no? Like that's her base instinct. We need to save ourselves yet again from those doves. I know what happens. We need to kill this person.
Yep.
And it didn't happen. So boom, next thing you know, Mr. Nishiki walks in, ready to serve coffee.
Literally.
Oh.
He now serves coffee, and I love how Hide is just kind of like watching all this happen. Like, you work here now too. Like, what the hell's going on
What the fuck
at
is
this
coffee
point?
shop?
Yeah. So you'll see how that all develops there, and it's really interesting how the story arcs kind of intertwine, and they lead to a lot of future arcs, right? So moving forward, now you have I believe now it's Mato and Amon versus Toka, Kaneki, and why do I keep messing up her name?
Hinami.
Hinami. Yeah.
And this is the
Hinami.
scene under. I think they're under the bridge, right? They're like up under
Yes,
an
they're under the
overpass,
bridge. Yeah.
and it's so elemental when Toko realizes the Queen K. Well, like when Mato like explains the Queen K situation, and like Hinami understands, Toka understands. Like, holy shit, that's the mom and dad.
Yep. He's
Yeah.
using the mom and dad against them. And then you actually see, you'll see, like, for example, Kaneki then actually overhears Amon making his way to go support Mato and then cuts him off. And this is another very monumental moment where, like, you'll see his humanity is kind of fighting against him and what he's like his decision making, right? So they're fighting. Amon's beating the shit out of Kaneki, and then Kaneki finally eventually brings out his Kagune and starts beating the shit out of Amon, but he's getting overworked, he's getting enraged, he's getting kind of consumed by that ghoul side again.
Yep, losing
And
control
tells him
a little bit.
and literally tells Amon, run, go away,
Yeah.
leave now. And like Amon is confused by this. He's like, ghouls are supposed to be these evil beings that kill everything. And Kaneki's like, I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to be a killer. And like you see this kind of level of humanity that's still fighting to be there.
Right.
And then as soon as Amon then leaves, Kaneki, then that ghoul kind of takes over him, and then Yomo shows up and Kaneki just shanks him, and then Yomo's like, bruh, like, come on, fam, like,
And
what
this
are you
is
doing?
this is actually
Jeez,
really,
sir.
really deep. This actually like
Yeah.
translates really deep because like if you think about this on a realistic level, you have like say a soldier who's fighting an enemy, but then like they like shows you don't like Amon has been taught that ghouls are enemies and nothing but, you know what I mean? Especially working with Mato. But like hearing
Yeah.
this makes him question everything he's ever felt or done. Like he's a, you know, he's a dove. His whole life has been about physically and mentally training for this. It shakes his world.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and there's the one line that comes through, and this is also a big moment for Kaneki because as he's going through his head, he's realizing I need to be the bridge between human and ghoul. He's realizing that this is it. Like, I can't give in, I can't die here because I need to bridge those worlds. So the exact line itself, you know, as he's looking at Amon, because this is fluctuating Amon's internal strife too. Like, wait, what? As he's saying this, Kaneki looks at Amon and says, "Don't make me a killer." That line right there is the hardest hitting line to Amon because it's "Don't make me a killer." So that means that this ghoul has not killed anyone else, and Amon said that shifts his whole foundation. He's like, "Whoa."
and doesn't
Don't
want
make
to.
me a killer. What?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to kill him, and you know, sure he keeps trying, and then his Kincaid breaks everything, and then he's like, well, shit.
I think he also
all
notices
fucked up.
Kaneki's eyes too in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. And he thinks
He had his mask on though, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
did
he had his
Okay,
mask on, so
okay.
his human eye was covered.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was just the fact of the words and everything else that just really hit hard, and like that's also a deciding point for Kaneki, where he realized that he wants to be the bridge between the two, which even then leads to more internal strife later on. But
It's like the start of his initial like main goal, and I mean, you know, yeah, like where he really starts to form that.
Me personally, my kind of snapshot of what Tokyo Ghoul is trying to do is the first season kind of shows the break between, like, all right, having the existential crisis of human and also being ghoul, right? Then you enter the second season or second kind of formation of the arcs where Kaneki kind of more so gives himself over to the ghoul side a lot more, and he finds the ghoul perspective, and then he kind of experiences that whole perspective as he is. And then moving forward, then you go into Tokyo Ghoul Re, where he then experiences the human perspective, and then ultimately, after having these two experiences, he will then come to his grand decision on what is life to him. And I would love to see how that all kind of plays out.
absolutely, I'll be right back real quick though.
Yeah.
No problem.
No doubt,
So
no doubt.
in the background, while Kaneki is fighting Amon, you have Toka fighting Mato, and they're all having a good old battle royale as they battle each other using Mato's using the Quinkes of Hinami's parents, and then Toka's trying to fight him off. And then at that moment, Hinami ends up pulling out her Kagune, which is a combo wombo
Yeah,
of both
yep.
the mom and the
Stronger
dad
than both,
together.
right? Yep.
Yep. And she ends up basically cornering Mato. Mato loses like a leg, I believe,
Yeah.
and then eventually he is then killed by Toka.
Because before that
af-
point, Toka kind of takes it easy on him, if you notice. Like her very first
Yeah.
attack to him, she doesn't even like slash or she just grabs him and whips him against a wall. And it almost hits
Yeah.
pretty soft because they're trying to show you like, well, he's human. So this hurts him pretty. He spits up blood, right? And she didn't even cut
Yeah.
him or anything. It was just a really abrasive throw. And
Yeah.
then yeah, when Hinami goes crazy, and then yeah, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're totally fine. And then just eventually, then she goes and she finishes off Mato, and then Mato is now dead, and then they get away.
Mhm.
Now, this is where the live action movie ends. If you guys haven't seen it, the Tokyo Ghoul live action is actually palpable. It's actually pretty good.
Really?
They don't try and force the entire series into one movie. They only do up to this arc. So they just do this arc alone, and they just enjoy it. It's the animation is as good as it can be, but the actor who plays Kaneki does an incredible job at personifying insanity. It's really well done.
Absolutely.
So this is where that leaves off. Now, moving forward, then you have the Aogi tree kind of starting to make moves now. And this is where kind of shit hits the fan because Aogiri tree is looking for Rize. We don't know why they're looking for Rize. They don't know why they're searching for her. But you have an individual called Banjo who's coming by, who comes to Anteku and goes to everyone, and they kind of meet Kaneki. And he's like, "Where is Rize? We need to find her." And then he goes and he sees that Kaneki smells like Rize, so he goes and grabs him, and they try and get to a fight, and then like Kaneki just like has been trained so well, he's just dodging, and then eventually just like ducks down, headbutts him, and then Banjo's like, "Oh shit!" And
Yeah.
then they talk it out.
Fucks him up. Yeah.
They talk it out a bit. They say that Rize's not around right now, that she's not in the area, right?
Yeah, he doesn't initially tell him. He doesn't want to break his heart because he sees how much, once they start talking, he sees how much Banjo actually cares about Rize and is concerned for her. So he doesn't know how to like tell her like, "Oh, Rize's dead and I have her organs."
Yeah. So he can't really tell her that, but Banjo then comes by and he says like, "Well, I came here to warn her that Aogiri tree is coming after her and that she needs to get away, that she needs to run." So at that moment, while they're doing all that mumbo jumbo, having that conversation, guess who busts in? Ayato, who is Toka's older brother with dual wings, and he's part of Aogiri tree. Along with that, you then have Jason busting in too.
Yeah.
So you got all these SS plus ghouls rolling in, just saying like, "What's up, fam? We're here for Rize," and they can't find her. So they say and then they're instructed to take anybody who smells like her. So
yeah.
What then happens is Ayato beats the shit out of everybody else. Jason then proceeds to take Kaneki and body him, like smash him against walls, throw him into the tables, basically destroying the entire shop.
It's quite the montage. He beats his ass for like a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, for a few minutes, just beats his ass,
slamming him like, just like, oh, it's so brutal. It's very. But that's Jason. Every moment we see him, he's meant to be very brutal character. He's pretty much on the verge of insane. I do believe his brain's been broken. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you know, but he was also imprisoned at one point, and what happened is that he had a very, very sociopathic and psychotic torturer who would then make him count back from 1,000 by 7, and then basically torture him consistently over and over and over and over until he ended up losing his mind himself. And then now they go ahead and they kidnap Kaneki and they take him back to Aogiri. Now, this is where the manga and the anime differ a little bit. In the manga, Jason doesn't take Kaneki right away. Ayato is actually in charge of Kaneki. and
Oh.
Ayato is has him in a jail cell. And Banjo and Kaneki actually hatch a plan to escape and to get away. And they almost escape from Aogiri, but then Jason pops up and says, "Yeah, nah, that's not happening, fam." And then
Interesting.
Jason makes a deal with Kaneki saying, "Hey, I'll let all these guys live if you become my assistant." And Kaneki says, "Okay, I'll become your assistant." And then Jason then brings Kaneki into his office
The chamber.
space,
Yeah.
the chamber, his office space, this little chamber, and Kaneki walks in and sees a dead body in a chair, and Jason just casually goes, "Oh yeah, that was my assistant. He messed up before, so this is what happened to him." And yeah, and then now you go into the like 5 episode long torture of Kaneki and Jason basically doing the torture that he experienced to Kaneki himself, and this has put an incredible strain on his mind as a whole. Now
Oh,
while this is
absolutely.
happening, Anteku as well as the CCG are both making plans to go ahead and attack Aogiri Tree. You want to pick up from there, Nova?
Yeah, absolutely. At Onteku, we see kind of like the group start to form. We see Toka, even Tsukiyama shows up. Yomo, I think Yomo goes, Nishiki goes as well. You see like a group start to form, and their plan is like, all right, we're gonna go infiltrate Agiri Tree. We're gonna try and get Kaneki back. And it's just like you see kind of the friends he's made, kind of like, oh yeah, let's all like they show up and they kind of volunteer one by one. Even Uta comes, who we don't really see much as like a physical force up until this point, which is pretty interesting. We see the Doves planning the attack. We see, and I believe that even ends up starting, but we'll get there in a second. I don't know if we see too much about Geary Tree planning. I think that's kind of left behind in the back of the scene. Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong. Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of in the behind the scenes. The
Because we
majority of
haven't
what
been
you
fully
see,
introduced to them yet. We don't know their
yeah,
whole working order or the
yeah.
chain of command yet.
You only really see the owl and Eto and Jason like kind
Agents of
of
Algiri Tree. Yeah.
every once in agents of Algidi kind of like once in a while, like on rooftops and shit, looking all ominous. But you don't really see too much about them, besides Jason beating the shit out of Kaneki and like torturing him for like 8 episodes in a row, right? So
Right.
that's what's the main focus is happening, and then you have the Doves, and then you have Anteku kind of making their plan. They're hatching their plans to go save Kaneki. Now, the Doves are not going to save Kaneki. They're going there to just annihilate Algiri.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so what happens is Anteku kind of gets wind of this and lets the CCG kind of hatch their plan, and then Anteku kind of moves in the shadows
As a
to try
distraction.
and go,
Yeah.
use them as a distraction to move in the shadows to go get Kaneki.
I think they even
Now,
come in through the sewers, don't they?
And also an Agiri uniform as well.
Yep. Yep.
yeah, in their uniform too, which is big brain, very
Yeah.
big brain. So and then I love this whole entire montage. These next few episodes are incredible because you get to see a lot of the abilities of some of the like craziest Aogiri members too. Some of them are wild. You find out about some really interesting characters with very interesting Kagune too.
Yeah.
And you see a whole bunch of dove people, like doves just get
Dude, the Dove
wrecked.
captain, when he comes out and he's like, "Stop being pussies," and like grabs a gun and walks out to the front of the Vanguard with like no shield and just sprays bullets, kills a bunch of freaking ghouls, and then just walks back and he's like, "All right, you guys handle it." Like that was so badass.
And the next best part was Juzo stealing the captain's motorcycle.
Yes,
yeeting
yes.
Up to the second floor.
And so
just slicing
casual, like,
people
"Here we
apart.
go."
Yeah.
Like that shit was
Yeah,
funny. dude.
super casual, dude. That's what I love about Juzo's character. He's just so relaxed about everything, and he's clapping cheeks left and right. Like, oh, this is just so much fun.
Juzo has
Mother's
no
gonna be
mind
so happy.
with repercussions. Juzo does not understand what a repercussion is. Like everything is just in the moment. This sounds fun. This is a good idea. Like who cares what happens after the fact? Like yeah.
The Shift W mentality. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, literally the Shift W mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as
that would
Fallen
be Chusky.
said,
Chusky would hop on the motorcycle and just send it face first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what will happen.
We'll see
Okay,
what
makes
happens.
sense.
and as Fallen said, we go through like I think 2 or 3 episodes where we get glimpses of Kaneki being tortured, and it's really filling in what's going on in the background with the fight, the attack, what's happening with each and individual member. They use this time to kind of world build and keep you interested in the outer story while Kaneki's having this struggle. And Slayer makes a very interesting point. During this torture, you start start to see a lot more of the hallucinations and Kaneki like
Oh yeah,
getting in touch with Rize and the ghoul side of like his new life. Yeah.
yeah. No, most definitely the torture has gotten him to a place in his subconscious where he's just kind of submissive and he's sitting like just taking it like
Okay.
this
Yeah,
in
sure.
pain. Because remember also Jason also injects, I believe it's in the anime, but it's in the manga. He injects Kaneki with a little serum that basically slows the regenerative properties of a ghoul so that he can actually cause Kaneki pain and
Yeah.
really hurt him. So he then tortures him for a while, and then Kaneki kind of enters his subconscious little space, his safe space, while he's being mutilated. And Rize at this point has so much influence over him, and she is going in and she's saying, "Why did you love your mother?" Why? It makes him question his humanity,
Yeah.
question everything about who he is and why he makes all the decisions that he has made up until this point, right?
Mhm.
And he has such a deep existential crisis where I believe at one point he breaks.
Yeah, he
You'll
has a
see,
mental retreat, and this is a real thing.
yeah,
In torture or in extreme pain or extreme sadness, the mind might actually just retreat upon itself and close itself off to the outside world. And I think that's where those hallucinations and the Rize moments like really grab
yeah,
you. Is
Well,
like he
I
breaks his
do agree
brain.
with that.
Yeah.
The one thing that definitely probably set it off into the final break would definitely have to be the centipede.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
yes,
That's
centipede
a
into the ear.
gnarly
entering
torture
the
method.
ear.
Yeah,
Which is crazy.
that
They
is
use
Yo,
that in Altered
insane.
Carbon. If you guys have seen that series on
Yeah,
Netflix, like they
yeah,
use that
absolutely.
same. I was like, ooh, is that a shout out to Tokyo Ghoul? I don't
Right?
know, but
Yeah, no, that
yeah,
was the scene where it absolutely came through, and it was like just the stress and everything else, the torture that came through to it. It also, like, in my mind, like set up a right stance of where humanity and Kaneki was losing the fight, and the ghoul was coming through, and the realizations of every single decision, like Vaughn was saying, was based out of weakness, was based out of I can't do this, and that switch, and it was like, wait, no, Rize, it was like, you can do these things. She was trying to show Kaneki that you have that strength. Why did you love your mother? Oh, why, blah, blah, all these things. Like, it almost went into his protector mindset where I can protect more if I go ahead and become full ghoul. I
Mhm.
can go ahead and do more to protect the people that I care about now, instead of being the one who's always self-sacrificing and losing the fight, or putting
yeah,
other people in risk. Because the one scene that also, I would say, besides the centipede that cracked him, was when he had the two women placed right in front of him, and he had to make a decision.
yeah.
Jason
You have to
said, "You
decide.
got to decide which one you're saving and which one you're not." And so that right there led Kaneki to his regular decision of take me instead.
Mhm.
Like, by all means, like, Jason Sindler, why would I take you when I have you here? I've already done all these things to you. What? It's just, to me, it's okay. He's trying to break Kaneki in every single form and fashion to have Kaneki essentially, in a state of submission that
Mhm.
is quite bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complete control
and
over
then
yeah his mind
and
and
then
stuff.
Kaneki once again cannot choose, and then both people end up dying because of Kaneki's lack their decision making skills. And at this point, I would love to mention the visual foreshadowing, the visual how they animated the actual visuals of like the field of white flowers, like
Mhm.
Kaneki sitting, being the idol, all like alone, like in a chair with Rize kind of moving around, and you see how he slowly loses his humanity because they personify it through the use of the flowers, right? The flowers slowly start to turn red. They become that red, like
They're
ghoul
tainted
cognate kind
now.
of color.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they darken, and then eventually Kaneki then accepts Rize, and then the entire field is red.
No.
And then what happens is on the flip side, his hair goes from black to white because now the innocence is gone. It's no longer inside of him; it's now on the outside, and he's complete ghoul on the inside.
It's a good way of
Also, I
putting
love
it. The
the
innocence is gone. Yeah.
yeah. And also the centipede, what Chusky mentioned, is then also a foreshadowing because when he goes half Kakuja, he has centipede-like Kagune, which are crazy, dude. So that was another really, really nice foreshadowing in that scene. And bro, the moment where he goes full ghoul is probably the most hype moment I've seen in a lot of animes, but that shit hit different
It
because
did.
he just hit like a whole new level of movement and just darkness just reigned in his mind. It
Oh,
was
and
crazy. It was
their
crazy to
aerials,
see.
the way they move in the air too, I love that about the animation and the fight scenes with the ghouls. They get that kind of like weightless vibe going on where they're like upside down doing like barrel rolls and flipping through the like it is so
Yeah.
sick, dude. The movement and the grace in which Kaneki like it's so casual, bro. Like he's just like, oh, whatever,
Yo,
whatever.
the moment that hits is like when he's in the air and he kind of flails out his Kagune,
Yeah, he's like,
all
wow.
outstretched, and he
Yeah.
just kind of floats down and then makes a move. Super aesthetic, very aesthetic movement and like stylization of fighting. And then you actually see how Kaneki is kind of vengeful, right? He
Oh
starts
yeah.
beating the shit out of Jason, and he starts making Jason count back from 1,000 by
The
7.
innocence is
And
gone.
like
Jason's like
innocence
technique worked in the reverse fashion. It gave him confidence. It got rid of his reservations. Now his goals are his goals, and if you stand in the fucking way, you're in the way, and you're gonna be removed. Like I love that.
Also, something to mention was that during this section, previously it was mentioned that if a ghoul eats a ghoul, they gain power.
Yeah,
So
we discussed. Yeah.
when Kaneki is then killing Jason, he then goes and kind of nom 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 a little bit, just a little hint of some noms here and there, and he ends up getting stronger too. And it's incredible how it plays out. And then Jason's kind of left to the wolves. He's left to the CCG to be taken in at that moment in time.
It's a
Incredible moment.
Personality traits that come through as well, which I found was very unique and interesting, is the personality traits that come through when you do when a ghoul eats another ghoul. They almost honestly take a little bit of their personality, and that's where Kaneki, where
Yeah.
he was in such a state of torture and everything. Well, the next thing you hear are fingers cracking.
Yep.
All these
The cracked
things. Yeah.
fingers. What
Yeah.
Jason used to do, he kind of inherited that by eating that little bit of his Kagune, which, by the way, super aesthetic, like unique kind of tick to have for a character. Just
Yeah.
cracking the fingernails, the fingers, bro, were a great little addition. And it like kind of shows like his own like mental activation of like, all right, I gotta do something.
Yep.
He'll crack
Audio
his knuckle and
cues.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, little audio cues, which are it's really aesthetic, and it's very much so a nice little what I would say a trigger
Yeah.
kind of a trigger like personification of like, all right, now shit's gonna get serious.
There is
Right.
no lack to the attention of detail in this series, and I think that's. I
Yeah.
mean, most people can agree on that. Even if you're not a fan of the show, there is no lack of detail. And like as you said, the foreshadowing is bar none almost to some anime. Most anime is pretty blatant, pretty upfront about what's going on. I think we do find in like horror and in the thriller genres, we find a lot more foreshadowing and mysterious vibes, but they just do it so well in Tokyo Drift, man. Or I just said Tokyo Drift, Tokyo Ghoul.
Drift.
Oh my god.
Yo.
It's because nothing's stronger than family, baby.
Yeah. You can have any beer as long as it's a Corona.
No, that's amazing. But yeah, no, 100%. Overall, I mean, everything else that happens outside of this monumental moment is now the CCG are fighting the owl as well. Kaneki then escapes and fights Ayato for a little bit, and he finds out that Ayato joined Aogiri Tree to protect Toka. So a lot of different kind of character development takes place, and ultimately, even though Anteku came here to come and save Kaneki then chooses, you know what? I'm not going to go back to Anteku. I'm going to go, and in the anime, I'm going to go and join Aogiri Tree. In the manga, he does something completely different. In the manga, he doesn't actually join Aogiri Tree. He actually creates his own group of individuals, which is made up of Sukiyama, Banjo, and a handful of other ghouls that aren't part of Anteku, but they are individuals that share the same goal as Kaneki.
Right.
So that is what he ends up doing in the manga, but in the anime, he ends up joining Aogiri Tree, and then that leads you into season 2, which is also a very fun season to watch.
It definitely is. It definitely is. 'Cause it shows the advanced side of Kaneki too, and his new ghoul powers too.
Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, bro, the raids and whatnot that happen. Oh my god, they're so incredible. The fight sequences
Yeah,
are
season
great.
2 comes in hot. Yeah.
You meet a lot of really incredible characters, some great fights, and then the one part about season 2, even though it's not canon, that just fucking hits every time is when Kaneki is carrying Hide through the CCG's camp after that big war that happened, and they slow down the opening song Unravel, and it's just in piano, bro, and he's just walking. I teared up, my guy.
Yeah.
I actually had a tear. I was like, wow, like this is hitting so different right now.
And one of my viewers actually made a comment on that. He said, the opening song for the first season is itself a spoiler to all events happening in the first season. Its name is Unravel by TK Tosite. That's why I think it plays at the end of the season and doesn't ever play again afterwards because everything has unraveled at that point and everything then
Yes.
starts to evolve and break down afterward.
That's
Yep.
cool. That's a very cool
That was
point.
an interesting point, right? Oh, yeah. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
dude. Nice. I'm glad I was able to tie that in. But do you guys want to transition into crunch time?
I think it is crunch time. So, Chew, if you don't know, crunch time is where we make our final comments, our final notions on what we thought of the anime as a whole, and we give it a rating out of 10. Okay? So, really dive in, dive deep, think about it, think about all the experience, and not just the storyline, but also the presentation,
Yeah.
how it looks, how it's
Opinions, everything.
animated, like the sound, the score, all those little levels that go into the actual anime that create the experience for the viewer. I'm gonna go ahead and play a Jeopardy sample so that we can go ahead and think about this.
Very interesting point.
20 seconds. Dun 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 dun. All right, Nova, you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my opinion of the crunch, let's get into Nova's crunch time. Tokyo Ghoul season 1. We're going to cut it off. This is not including anything after season 1. This isn't the manga. This is just me watching season 1. Um I'll give my rating at the end. So I want to start with the fact that yes, I've seen it twice now, and I definitely connected to it more the second time. I don't know why that is. It could be that I was watching it subbed. It could be that I was maybe paying more attention and I had a purpose this time for watching it, and I was really gathering more intel. So maybe that wasn't the show. Maybe that was on my end, and I'm hallucinating. But this second time coming through, I was
You have
so
Rize in your mind.
yeah, exactly. Which would be pretty awesome, actually. Rize, come hang out with me, waifu.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I think and the second time I really didn't see it, even though it does get gory, even though it does get pretty thrilling and intense, I didn't see it so much as like a scarier anime this time. I saw it as like a struggle. Someone who went through like an like a bunch of incredible hardships and pain and and was able to grow as a person. And it's I guess I was just able to connect to it personally and saw like the growth in Kaneki and was like, wow, I've been through shit too. Like you can still grow. Music incredible. The score for and like as we were talking about the outro, so much thought and detail went into everything, like the foreshadowing, the hints and tweaks there, the music, like it was such a well put together show. I'm talking too much. I want to go on to say I really like Nishiki. I love his character and I love that character archetype. They used a lot of classic anime character archetypes in a newer, modernized anime, which was so well done too. Um, okay, my final vote. I could talk about this by myself for 2 hours. I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I really like Tokyo Ghoul. I
Okay.
really do. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, so Mr. Guest Analyst, Mr. Chusky, what is your little crunch time?
Okay, so first and foremost, the anime, I love it. I've watched it quite a few times. I've gone back and forth with it. The one thing that I feel really, really doesn't do this a great service is how long it can take to get into it. A lot of people are
Yes.
turned away due to the fact that it's an anime that winds up. It's an anime that goes from like first gear all the way through, and it's something that if you stick with it, and for an example, as Noah was saying, the second time he watched it, he was able to connect with it a lot more. Well, there's a reason for that, because the second time you're going through, you're appreciating now every single moment that is smaller or that
Right.
is longer, that it takes to wind up there. So in that sense, yeah, that's a one, the service that it did to itself, but the art style, the personality types, the growth, the challenges that it brings up questions within yourself as well. It does it very, very well. The characters themselves are unique enough where it's not like you're watching, another anime, the exact same type of characters in there. You're seeing some very interesting points where it's almost, what serves better in those situations. So I like the questions it brings up for myself when I'm watching. I like the feelings that it brings in when I am going through it all. And overall, I'd say it has everything that you'd want in an anime after the first initial wind up. You
Okay.
get to see what you like to see. You get all the other stuff there, but it misses out on a lot of that initial ass kicking action where you're getting it from more so of everyone else, and Kaneki is the punching bag.
The
I would
pacing's
have
a little
liked to
different,
see,
right, than
yeah,
normal anime. Yeah.
yeah, and I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the kick-ass stuff that the other seasons would have had or that have inside the first one. But overall, from start to finish, like it picks up so well, does everything so much that it makes you excited to continue watching. So overall sound too, the opener, I can tell you I've listened to it 1,000 times. It's something that just catches your attention. You're in it the whole time. You're like, damn,
Yep.
damn. A lot of the things of the white roses, the red roses, the change in that sense there. You know, Keneki's on his own and everything. The family found is solid time. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this rating for this anime here. I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. It's a great watch. It's great to rewatch every single time. You find something more that you love about it.
Nice. Very, very nice. Now, for me, you guys mentioned a lot of the high points for me as well. Yes, definitely on the first time you watch it, it does take a little while to get good. I mean, it's a slow burn, right? But the reason being is because they want to put so much depth into the character development, the actual individual development, and I really, really appreciate when animes dive into the human psyche and how it can unravel
Some of
little
our
by
new
little,
metas,
if you know what I'm
right?
saying.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's a very much so one of the new metas that you see a lot nowadays in current anime. So I really enjoyed how they went to the human psyche and they showed multiple different perspectives and different types of experiences throughout the entire anime. Now, yes, it is a very slow burn, and I would say that this when you watch it the second time around, it's a lot better. But the first time around, if you are a seasoned anime watcher, you will enjoy it. But if it's one of your very first animes, I don't know if you will be really, really riveted. I don't think you might like it as much. Now, in regards to the animation, the actual color schemes, the color palette that they use is beautiful. They really do a great job at showing kind of stark moments, but also having brighter tones brought in here, as well as kind of showing the Kagune having a brighter tone within the darkness, right?
Mhm.
I love showing the duality between the human experience and the ghoul experience too. So for that kind of depth, that hits different for me. Now, fight scenes and all that jazz, you gotta wait a while because, yeah, as Chusky said, Kaneki's kind of the punching bag for a very long time until the very, very end of the season. Season 2 shows a lot more of that action that people are gonna be craving. But talking about season 1, I think story-wise, it is very, very well done. Action-wise, it's a little lacking, but character development, it nails it. The foreshadowing is really incredible in my take as well. I love them showing little inklings that you wouldn't notice the first time around if you don't know about the world. But when you know about the world, you watch it a second time, you notice a lot more of the foreshadowing, a lot more of those little details that you wouldn't have noticed the first time. So for me overall, I would give it a 8.5. An 8.5
8.5.
as
Okay.
8.5 as an anime.
I
The
agree with you
manga
when you say
itself-
it's hard to be if it's your first anime, that would be difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's not really much to hook you in, right?
Mhm.
Unless you are very much so versed in anime and you know how much time world building takes. I mean, realistically, guys, this show might take almost like a half a season to like set up the world. But when you look at other shows from back in the '90s, like Bleach, and One Piece and Yu Yu Hakusho, where that shit took like 80 episodes to set the fucking scene. I mean,
Exactly.
this isn't too bad. So overall, it's not terrible, but I would say if you are an anime only watcher, definitely watch season 2, and enjoy the hell out of it. It's really, really fun to watch. There's some stuff that's canon, some stuff that isn't, but definitely enjoy that. If you are a manga reader, definitely read this manga. This manga is very, very well
Absolutely.
written.
Yeah.
Very, very well written. The art style is pretty unique as well, so definitely read it if you guys want to. And then finally, the only issue if you are an only anime watcher is you will have to go and like read or watch a synopsis of what happens between season 2 and season 3, because there is literally no connection between what's going on there. So you
Right.
kind of have to fill in the blanks yourself. But beyond that, yeah, season 1, 8.5. Sorry that it's so long-winded,
Oh
guys.
no, dude! This is what it's for. No, it's totally what it's
Absolutely.
for. And now that we've got our anime crunch votes in, you guys have seen what we thought of the series. Chat Slayer Death said he thought it was a 20 of 10, so it scored pretty high on his scale. We're gonna go into we'll talk about our next series. It's gonna be the next episode. The vote has been up for a couple weeks now. And the winner of that was Megalo Boxing. Which is a fantastic series. I've seen the first season already.
Yeah.
I'm going to rewatch it, but just so you guys know, it is available on Netflix right now if you have a Netflix subscription.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic anime. Hands down, it really does go well into the sports anime of like the sports anime category in
Mhm.
itself. Like the
Major cowboy vibes.
Yeah,
Major cowboy bebop
absolutely.
vibes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
The gentleman's name is Gearless Joe, so that's where it's almost in a sense of like the underdog story, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of classic stuff that comes in with the underdog story of where did he start, how did he make it through, and why is he now on the main stage? So that it does it really well from start to finish. Hands down, a great anime.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
excited to see
If
that.
you're a fan of the Rocky series, Megalo Boxing is definitely going to have some mirrors held up to that big time.
I'm very excited to watch it. I mean, I'm very much so new to the sports category. I've been binging the hell out of Haikyuu, which is really good. If you guys haven't seen it, we did a whole deep dive on that anime. But I've been watching the newest season. And wow, it's incredible. But I'm really excited to see some new sports anime. The closest thing to a boxing anime would be Kenichi the Mighty Disciple. So
Fantastic,
that was
dude.
fantastic anime, dude.
Oh,
So
man.
so that'll be another one. So I'm very excited to see like the correlation of like fighting styles and whatnot, and to really experience this because I have not seen it. So I'm very excited, guys.
Yeah, and it has like that sci-fi element too. So it's not just pure boxing. It's like this futuristic exoskeleton sci-fi boxing. It's pretty neat, and a lot of anime. We're talking about sports anime. The meta right now is kind of like team sports. This isn't a team sport, so it's something kind of different.
I
Yeah.
will say that Megaloboxing does have some competitors as well. For an example, the Netflix show Levius. That's another one that was very similar. So it does have a few other categories of almost like mech boxing in it, like
Yep.
mech human boxing hybrid. So it's like it's something where you see a lot of things almost like Jax from Mortal Kombat. You know, something where it's just like he has those arms now that are changed. So it's like it's a really cool little subgenre that's almost similar to Baki and everything. I don't know if you
Oh
guys
yeah.
have checked out
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Baki.
Baki
Yeah,
vibes.
Kengan
Yep.
and Ashura.
Hajime no Ippo.
Yeah, yeah. There's tons of different ones now. So this genre itself is actually coming up quite well. And Megaloboxing is one of the first ones in there that I translated well into season 2, I should say.
Hell yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Well, all right, guys. I hope you guys had a fantastic time. Once again, Chusky, the big man, mustache man.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
being
much
here,
for being
Chusky.
here. Thank you for giving us your insight. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for being such a wonderful
Really
and fun
insightful
person.
comments, man. Great
Yeah.
great spot. We
I'm
loved
happy
having
to
you here
be
today.
here. I'm just happy to be here, and I appreciate the invite, guys. It's always great talking anime with people who love anime. So, you know, I'm happy to have met you there, Nova. Fallen, I've known you for a while, so it's definitely solid catching up on some animes that we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
We're friends
very
now,
true.
Chusky. We just became
Yeah,
friends
yeah,
over
no,
the course of 2
yeah.
hours.
Yeah, I agree with that fully, wholeheartedly. So,
Awesome.
Well then, thank you guys. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you guys for being here. We'll be back in a little bit with some Megalo boxing. So
You've been
take
watching
it
the
easy.
Anime Crunch Show,
Yeah.
talk show, and podcast where we discuss, analyze, and even review our favorite anime and anime voted upon by you, the viewer. Thanks for being here, guys.
Take it easy.
see you
Peace
guys
out.
later.